She sat in the middle of the glittering ballroom, dressed in silk that shimmered beneath the golden chandeliers, yet no one seemed to notice her. Leela Hart, the only daughter of billionaire magnate Charles Hart, had everything money could buy except what she truly craved: attention, connection, a voice that reached her in the silence she lived in. People whispered about her when they thought she wasn't looking. "So tragic," they'd murmur. "Such a beautiful girl but deaf. What a shame." And then they'd move on. They talked around her, above her, never to her. To them, she was the quiet girl who smiled politely, never part of the conversation. Her father adored her, but he was always busy, always working to build empires and sign billion-dollar deals. He assumed surrounding her with tutors, nannies, and the best doctors was enough. But nothing filled the emptiness of being invisible in a world full of noise. On her 18th birthday gala, the room sparkled with champagne glasses and laughter, but Leela sat at a corner table, fiddling with her fork, her eyes drifting from face to face. Not one person had approached her all evening. Not one. And then a shadow fell across her table. She looked up, expecting another waiter clearing glasses. Instead, she saw a man in a janitor's uniform, his hands rough and scarred from work, holding a mop that dripped onto the marble floor. She blinked, confused. Was he lost? Then his hands moved. Slowly, carefully, he signed, "Are you okay?" Leela froze, her fork clattering against the plate. Her heart skipped a beat as her eyes widened. Someone was speaking to her in her language. "Yes," she signed back, her movements trembling with disbelief. "You know sign language." The janitor smiled, nodding. "My brother is deaf, I learned." Tears pricked Leela's eyes. For the first time in months, someone had spoken to her, not around her, not about her, to her. They signed quickly, their conversation flowing like water released from a dam. His name was Sam. He worked nights at the Hart estate, cleaning floors and fixing broken lights no one else noticed. He was older than her by a few years, but he didn't treat her like a fragile doll. He joked. He asked her questions. He listened. The ballroom faded away. The music, the chatter, the clinking of glasses, all useless noise she never heard, meant nothing compared to this moment. She laughed, a soundless laugh that shook her shoulders and made her glow. Sam grinned as if he just uncovered the world's best-kept secret. But then a sharp voice cut across the room. "Leela." Her father stood nearby, his expression hard, his gaze flicking between his daughter and the janitor. The room went quiet, all eyes turning toward them. Charles strode forward, his jaw tight. "What are you doing here?" he snapped at Sam. "This is not your place, get back to work." Sam lowered his eyes respectfully, but before he could step away, Leela grabbed his arm. Her hands flew desperately. "Don't go, please." Charles frowned. "Leela, you don't understand, he's just a—" "Just what?" she signed fiercely, tears burning her cheeks. "The only person who talks to me." The room gasped. Guests whispered. Charles's face paled as he realized everyone had seen, everyone had heard, or rather, seen her signs interpreted by the translator who often followed her at public events. For the first time, he understood. That night after the party ended, Charles sat in his study, replaying her words over and over. He had given her everything except what she needed most: connection. He had never bothered to learn her world, to truly speak to her. The next morning, Leela walked into the gardens and found Sam fixing a broken fountain. She smiled shyly, unsure if her father had already fired him. But instead of anger, she saw Charles step out from behind the hedges, his hands moving awkwardly, stiffly. "Good morning," he signed, stumbling over the shapes. Leela's breath caught. Her father, proud, untouchable Charles Hart, was learning. Sam stepped back quietly, giving them space. Father and daughter stood there, both clumsy and emotional, signing slow words that built bridges brick by brick. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real. From that day forward, Leela was no longer the invisible girl in the corner. She was a young woman with a voice, one that didn't need sound to be heard. Sam continued to be her friend, her teacher, and her confidant. And Charles, for the first time, put aside his empire long enough to realize the greatest investment he could ever make was in his daughter's heart. Years later, people still remembered the billionaire's grand parties, his skyscrapers, his wealth. But Leela remembered something far more precious, the janitor who reached into her silence and gave her a voice, and a father who finally learned to listen. Because love doesn't always need words. Sometimes it just needs hands willing to speak.